Hey, we are on the air. It's Friday, November 15th. Wow. It's almost hard to believe that it's almost winter, but it doesn't feel like it. It's 4:40 p.m. in San Diego, and we are here in our second organizational meeting for, oh, this is not the right page. There we go. We are in our, here. Oh my goodness. We are in our second meeting, and today is the 15th. That was the first one. Actually, the first one was on the 13th, right? We just did it 2 days ago. So, second organizational meeting for the Supercharged seminar, and we have a great turnout. As always, it's an incredible power team that the Brain Trust has brought together. Today we have Charlie from up in Oregon, originally from South Carolina. We've got two Serbians with us. By way of Serbia, we've got Bojan and up in Vancouver, British Columbia, and Alina in Toronto, outside of Toronto. Eileen, also outside of Toronto. We've got Cindy Martini from South Carolina and Rob Pepper here. And we are going to follow up from our last meeting and most importantly talk about the most urgent issues. We were planning to start 45 minutes ago and end now, but since most of you just got here recently, I think we'll just make it at the most 45 minutes from now, but we'll try to cover the most important stuff first. And I think that, from my perspective, the most important item is number one, and let me just see, I think that most of you are aware, but maybe people will hear this later. So in our previous meeting, we had, and one of our action items was to book webinar special guests, and I had suggested that Lisa was a good choice, and those in the meeting agreed, and so that night I called Lisa, who I happen to know, and this is one of the interesting things about going to events and about how this yellow brick road that you're taking in internet marketing, you never know where it's going and where it's going to lead to, because I met Lisa and Curtis through Ripplin. They became my upline through a story that's too long to go into, but because of that, I'd had a chance to network with them on the phone, and I just was able to see very quickly what incredible people they were, and they were really the first leaders in Ripplin. They were consultants to the company, and they led a bunch of the calls going into it. Curtis is that kind of an MC, host, speaker, and two of them are business partners, for those who don't know. Everybody here knows by now. But anyway, because of Ripplin, I went to Dallas in August, and in Dallas, Lisa and Curtis were both there. And because I had talked to them on the phone a bunch, and they had just always been so generous with their time and so helpful, I could feel comfortable going up to them in Dallas, even though they were speakers and pretty big shots. But they're just normal people, humble, very nice, sweet. And so I got to know Lisa and Curtis both a little bit in Dallas. And then while I was there, I found out they were going to be going to Matt's event down in Cabo. And so I was actually looking forward to spending more time with them in Cabo, which I did. And in fact, it was something Lisa said to me that influenced what we're doing here with the Brain Trust. So I have a lot of respect for Lisa, love Lisa, and I didn't think it would be an issue for her to do this with us, because when I was putting this together back in early October, I guess we had the first webinar about this on October 13th, just a month ago, and when I was putting it together, I asked Lisa to take a look at it and see if she had any input before I presented it. And her feedback was all overwhelmingly positive and simple, and basically said, what can I do to help? I said, well, you're doing what I asked. I just wanted your feedback for this. And she said, no, I think it's a great idea. I think it's going to be successful. Just tell me how we can help. Like, for example, if we could, if you want to do a live event, if you want us to do a webinar for you, and things like that. So she, that was that conversation a month ago. And since then, she's been traveling. She's been all over Asia, and I haven't talked to her, but I've seen her posting on Facebook. When I called her that night, 2 nights ago, it was midnight here, and I knew she was somewhere in Asia, so I actually just sent her a text on Skype and asked if she was around. She said, yeah, what's up? I asked if I could call her. She said, sure. So I called her. She said, what's up? I told her, and she said that she would be honored. She said, I'm thrilled to be asked, and I consider it an honor and a privilege to be asked. And that was huge. So anyway, Lisa is going to be the host, and because of that, we originally were talking about using, well, I guess the foundation that we had to work from was this webinar that Deborah created, which is just really well done. And Deborah is a great leader and put a lot of work into this and basically handed it over to us to do with what we choose to as a brain trust. And so I suggested that she can be the host of, at the time I said you can be the host of the first one, and she could. She could be the host and introduce Lisa, or we could do it where it's, well, I'll introduce Lisa, and then Lisa will give it back to me, and then I'll introduce Deborah, and Deborah can finish up the supercharge part of it. So anyway, Deborah did a great job, and these bonuses, if nothing else, you should definitely look at her bonuses. Bullion has great bonuses, so no excuse for not having great bonuses. I mean, I think she's offering way more than you need to be honest, because if people took, what we always hear is people don't ever take up on it, so you can just give away the world. But the truth is, if people start taking her up on this, none of it's too bad. I guess you can outsource, you can outsource this. I think this is part of the reason why she wanted to pass this on to the Brain Trust, is because we can do this much better as a team than for individuals to have these groups. So anyway, the point is that she has learned from the masters of this, like Matt, and we can use that. But this is not the right presentation to use for Lisa. So what I'm suggesting is, and what Eileen and Peter and I have already talked about, is that the Lisa webinar will be a little bit different. But the end of it could be, there could be 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the end where Deborah takes over, and we can set it up so that Lisa does a great lead-in for Deborah. But this is just my thoughts so far, so let's talk about that. I can either just unmute everybody, or people can ask. Why don't you just ask to be unmuted?
Rob, can I ask one question? Is anybody else having trouble hearing Rob other than Cindy? She said he sounds like he's fluttering in and out. Anybody else having problems? You want to unmute everybody just a minute, or either put it on there on the chat box.
Everybody's unmuted.
Everybody else? Anybody else? Okay, I guess it's.
It's those.
It's probably connection issues.
It's the cable company in South Carolina. I hear they're not.
That's what it is. Yeah. Cindy, it's got to be your fault. There's only one solution there.
It's 8 o'clock on a Friday night in South Carolina. Everybody's home watching their TV. There's just not enough bandwidth to go around. I'm just joking. Who knows? But if it's me, let me know, because I can definitely call in on the phone.
No, you sound good to me.
All right. So we are still recording. Everybody's unmuted. Anybody want to provide any suggestions for the Lisa Grossman webinar? Eileen, do you want to talk? I know you were going to do some homework.
I actually woke up not too long ago.
Okay. So we'll talk about it later.
But when you mentioned that we wanted to do a webinar, as in have Lisa talk about the community, vision, all that stuff, and an entrepreneurial spirit, all that kind of stuff, and then afterwards, we she presents Deborah. Is that the case? She presents Deborah. Is that the case?
I'm going to mute everybody again, and then I'll unmute you.
Sorry, I asked a question and I didn't get an answer. Hello?
That's because I unmuted the wrong Rob. Let me.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm unmuted now. Okay. So,
Okay.
So say it again.
So my understanding now is that what we're gonna do is have Lisa talk, and then have her bring Deborah, and then Deborah is gonna talk about supercharge. Is that the case?
That was what I suggested just now, but it's just my idea, and I'm just throwing it out there. But I think, first of all, this was not where I said, Lisa, can you come and speak to the Brain Trust and give us some inspiration? She would have said yes for that too. But I asked her to come to be our guest on a webinar about the Supercharge Summit. She knows about the event. She knows that she advised Matt to change the date of it so that he could go to Eric Worre's event. She, Curtis is one of Matt's advisors, so she's happy to do that. So yes, that is, the idea is that somehow or another, without offending the people that are there and Lisa's fans, and the kind of stuff we're talking about with Peter, I do think that we can find a very good way for, without Lisa even necessarily mentioning it, but she probably would be happy to mention it too. But really let Deborah do the selling for the event after Lisa does the selling of why community and events are so important. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Okay. My little problem with that is that people who might come in for Lisa would just come in for Lisa, and afterwards,
that's fine.
When they realize that, oh, it's a pitch, and they'd be out of it. That's why I'm trying to say.
We'll strategize with Lisa about that, but I think that it can be done the right way.
I wouldn't want
this to go. It's not going to be promoted. It's not going to be promoted in a way that is just about Lisa and misleading. So that is what we have to figure out. We want people to like Lisa and would be interested in our business.
Okay, right now is the time then I talk about what I think should be done. Okay.
Go for it.
Okay, so I think because by now everyone that knows Lisa, whether you know her of her name or she's well known for speaking at those events, and so I think in terms of why you should go to the event, she should give it's her option, but I would like for her to give like a speaker testimonial point of view of saying like, yeah, after the event, there's after every time that I finish speaking, or every time she comes to a group of people with really good a really good community of people, and they come to the live events to learn what they get out of it, and then also obviously as a speaker she will get something out of that too, usually more networking. But bottom line is that it's more of a, people have been talking about why you're going to the events, and everyone knows why you should be at events, but not everyone knows the type or the quality of events, like the difference, because there is a massive difference. And both you and I know it, Rob, and so I think that would be a good point of view. And furthermore, because she can talk about, like, she knows Matt enough to know the way he does things and the way that he always goes out of his way to do that. And I think it makes a lot more sense for her to say that than any one of us, because we are in Matt's program and Lisa isn't, but she's been to Cabo, so she knows the quality and people like Caesar and Tanya, they're like, yeah, this is actually the best mastermind we've ever attended to, and they host masterminds. So, what do you think about that?
I like it.
All right. So as for the so-called pitch, really the entire I wouldn't like I wouldn't do the usual thing where anyone when people host webinars for to sell tickets to an event, they usually do bonuses and all that kind of stuff. I would actually hold that until either the second or third webinar.
Yep,
And
I
so
agree.
it's all like value. Like this is what I want to do. Um, to like okay, these webinars we're putting together. First thing they come into is recognition as well as authority as well as somebody that they know, trust, like, and they'll buy things from. And so that's the first webinar, and I want people when they come in the webinar to realize that, man, this group of people aren't like, well, whether it may be brain trust or Mo, but the people who are doing this right now, they are not just, they are not asking for us for a buck, okay? They're just actually giving everything to us for free. That's what I want to do, because after the first webinar we do with Lisa, then the world then we can get those people, the attendees that's in the webinar, to promote it to their circle of people. Okay, so if they get really good extremely good value out of the first webinar, they might go to their team or their circle of friends and say, hey, you know what, on Monday night, I was at a webinar, and here's a replay if you want to watch it. But I think this is really good, and apparently they're doing like a second one. You should come onto this webinar. You should take the night free and then come to the webinar, and so have that in place. And then we'll set up the lead pages, the Facebook events, and all of that kind of stuff for it, which isn't hard to do at all. It can be done within minutes. And so that's what I want them to feel like. Now the third one, because by then they get to know us, they get to know that yeah, this entire thing is really about giving back to the community and reaching out to people who need help. And maybe on the third one we can do things like we can pull people from the brain trust and have a few people say kind of like a testimonial, but no way in any form that we say, okay, this is a testimonial. You just say like Charlie can say how he joined 2 weeks, actually almost 3 weeks ago, and there wasn't really a plan for him, but just yesterday, because of how much support he's been getting from the group and from people behind the supercharged scene, he made a sale, in fact, last night, right? So and so the difference, I mean, like, maybe Charlie, if he wants to speak about because it's the community or the support, and because Charlie has also been doing this for a few years now, but he's never received this amount of support and people to actually take their time to help him. So that's the kind of people that we are, right? And I want to be able to help more people that way as well. So by then, on the third one, that's when we get down to saying, right, yeah, there's an here's I don't really think we should go with if you'd like to learn more, but we're gonna say we have a meeting together with everyone on the Brain Trust, as well as this community in my online business empire, and we're going to be doing an event down in Scottsdale, Arizona. Okay, now the event is whatever, 2.5 days, but aside from the community, here's what you're going to be really learning, and then we throw out the speakers and their names on stage, or the people who will be on stage, and then Matt hasn't updated his supercharged sales page, so I don't know what kind of bulk guarantee he's going to give, but I bet there is going to be one, so we throw that out, and at at the end of that we say this is really it, like, because now it's the holiday season and it's all about giving. But the most important thing is that if you don't have a plan now, would you you can this could be your plan. Okay, just get yourself to the Supercharge seminar, and we'll do all of that for you. And then by then we throw out the bonuses. Um, and and yeah, and I think that's how I would do it. There are a few bits and pieces there. I know one thing. We can't have this webinar like we have our meetings. Remember remember the webinar that we did for the Home Business Summit, where we invited each other on? That entire process took way too long. Um, we have to actually get this down. Like, maybe we need to record it before the actual webinar happens and just run it as a replay. But we need to actually kind of perfect this, because we want to be able to fit the information needed and like leave out the rest of the gibberish, and just just give it to them. So that's
Well,
how I would do it.
what you're talking about is absolutely true, and it's the difference between a webinar and a launch funnel, which is essentially, I mean, a webinar where you're just getting people on and teaching them doesn't have to be perfect, but when you're trying to sell something, at the end, it becomes a product launch funnel. It's that program that we just paid for, that we'll learn to do some cool ninja stuff with that. But I think you're on exactly the right track, and that is what we should do. I don't know if you're looking at your computer, but I took notes on what you said, and I think that is what we should pursue. So let's talk about the first webinar for now.
Yeah.
And is there anything more that we need to put down here for the moment before, I can send this off to Lisa with just a little bit more information so that she can start thinking about it? We're not actually scheduled to talk to her in detail until Sunday night, but she doesn't need much. And the question is, do we want to give her a presentation? It could be just, slides, pictures, doesn't have to even have a lot of words to work from. Or do we want to tell her to give us some input by Monday at noon, and we can do it? I don't really know how she does her stage presentations. I know how she did it in Cabo.
Well, she doesn't present, she speaks. That's the difference
speaks.
between her, Curtis, and every other speaker.
Yeah, so then we should do a teleseminar instead of a webinar. People don't need to see it if she's just speaking. So maybe while she's speaking, we can have, that's something we can think about, is that while she's speaking, without being distracting, we can maybe show some pictures of Moog things that will give credibility. But I don't know.
Why?
Community things. Maybe based on what she's going to say, maybe it would just be some results that would further illustrate what she's saying. Why is because people are sitting in front of their computer, unless we just tell them this is really, you came on to a webinar, but for now you can just walk around and get on the phone because we're not going to be showing you anything. But if we are, we should take advantage of it.
The problem with the showing pictures and things like that is when I see it now, I know it's automatically there's an offer at the end. Okay? This is not just giving value. I mean, they can say whatever that they want. Like the same thing when I was on Chris Perry's webinar, he and Matt, when they're showing everything, I'm like, okay, this is 2 words. This is exactly what it is. And so that's why I left. But
I think, can I jump in here?
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. One of the things, Eileen, I think maybe Rob was talking about is just showing pictures in the background of the events. It doesn't have to be an offer. It could be while she's speaking. No,
it shouldn't be an offer. I agree.
So I wouldn't worry about there being an offer at the end of it, because I've seen
no, it's just the feeling. That's what it is. That's what I'm worried about.
I don't feel that way, but so there's obviously two different feelings here, but that's why we're doing it this way, because you're throwing visual effects and verbal effects, audio effects at the audience, and people are picking up on what they relate to. Some will be the pictures, some will be what she's saying, some will be the combination.
And
Anyway.
so the problem really is, aside from the emotional part that I would feel, is the fact that when you show people, well, okay, if you show people pictures and then you're speaking, and if you're saying, oh, here is myself and my friends and my family, where, and during Christmas time where we gather around the trees unwrapping presents, that makes total sense, right? But now, you gotta think, this is now Lisa speaking. She's gonna go on about community and all that stuff, and we are showing them a community and all that stuff, which is amazing. But the problem lies, the pictures at the supercharge will not, no, at this pictures from all of Matt's events will not be of a representation of exactly what Lisa is speaking about.
We can get the pictures from Lisa. We can get pictures from Lisa. Lisa's got plenty of her own pictures. There's plenty of them just on the Facebook page.
Yeah. Okay.
We can
So
decide
I
with
would
her.
say
I think you're right. That if there's going to be any pictures, they need to be pictures that are either supplied by her or that we agree on in advance, so that they're consistent with her presentation. It really
it'll make a lot more
sense
sense if she says like, yeah, and to grow this through the community that she's been involved with and the community she's been helping or gaining resource from. And then she can show her pictures with Curtis about the things that she's doing, because she's the presenter, so that would make sense. And other thing is, because Lisa and Curtis, even though they work together, they attract different people. And because Curtis, he's emceed multiple No Excuse summits, we can go down to the actual internet marketing scene for him, and then Lisa would be network marketing. So we're our targets aren't necessarily the same, and those two sets of people focus differently. Network marketers usually care more about things like this, people, community, all that kind of stuff. And internet marketers are more stats. And so whether it be their, based on personality, if they're in the right zone. But I'm just saying that for these two, do we want Lisa and Curtis together in one webinar or separate?
Well, another thing is you don't have to have pictures running for the entire time she's speaking. And I agree,
Definitely
separate would be good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing that I don't want, just because I originally thought, okay, a slideshow would be cool, but that would distract people way too much to, even take in the information. And our goal is to have these people who come on the webinar to feel that they are really getting a lot of fucking value.
Chances are that with all of
Watch the expletives there. This is being recorded for later replay, isn't it? Or is this just going to be among the team?
No, it's just going to be among the team.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, but you should still try and keep your language clean when you're with adults,
Okay.
And when you're with Peter and me, you can talk how you want. But
Yeah, no, Peter gets really offended easily. Just kidding, Peter. Is he here?
Anyway, no, not yet.
I don't think he
But
is.
we spent some good time working together last night. So anyway, it's not a slideshow, but what I was going to say is, Lisa does tons of presentations, although we know that she speaks without slides like she did in Cabo. I guarantee you there's many times when she speaks with slides, and she probably, in spite of not being that savvy, she's probably got a big collection. So once she knows the topic, she'll probably be able to supply us. And, it's just one every couple minutes, and it's really up to her whether we have any at all during her presentation. But once we switch over to Deborah, I think that Deborah will certainly want to use some slides. So we have to figure out the transition and then let Lisa handle that transition, either to introduce Deborah if she knows her. Even if she doesn't, I'm sure she can find out enough about her beforehand to introduce her. That's good to be introduced by an authority like that. So, in fact, that's what we should do. I haven't talked to Deborah about this yet, so aside from...
No, wait, hold on a second. So you didn't hear anything that I just said?
I heard what you said. Did you hear what I said?
No, why would you want to have Lisa introduce Deborah?
Because this is not being put on by Lisa. This is being put on by the Brain Trust.
So, like I was saying, everything should be about the idea, not based on brain trust.
It's not based on Brain Trust. We just are the community that's presenting it.
Okay, and what do you want Deborah to say?
We'll figure that out. I've heard your input, and right now we're just getting input. So is there anything else that people want to add about the webinar before we take it offline and work on it with a small group of people, including Lisa? All right. So the answer is, Eileen, I don't know. This is just the time to get input. I hear what you're saying, and maybe it won't have anything at all to do with Supercharge, but I think that it will. But we'll figure that part out. All right, so moving on to number 2, we talked about that webinar strategy that Eileen presented is strong, and I like it. That's actually number 3. When we get to here, we can talk about presenters, but as far as Curtis, I think we could probably recruit him to be the presenter number 2. And maybe kind of what you're saying, Eileen, is that depending, all of this, it's really all part of a launch if we handle it smart. If Liz Hester was here advising me the way that she did when I did the webinar for David versus Goliath, we would be handling it like a launch, and there's things that I don't know. So, that's why we're all here. We're learning about this. But whatever is the most effective is what we want to do. And that's the overall strategy, but the webinars can be a big part of it. So if we go from Lisa to Curtis to us, if we go, what I had been thinking originally was that we do, guest number 1, guest number 2, and guest number 3, and then we make a final version of it that would have like the best clips from all of them, but I don't even know if that makes sense. There's so many possibilities. We have a lot of creativity among us, and what we don't need to, the good news is we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We should model this from things that have been working well. And I think you're right on, Eileen. I just don't know exactly, but we'll figure that out over the next couple of days. Other strategy ideas. Rob Harris is the head of the think tank, and he will be working on implementation and on continuing to discuss the strategies. But for now, if anybody wants to be unmuted, if you have any thoughts about, online, offline, I would say that based on conversations I've had with various people, we're definitely going to be doing some online. We'll be doing some Facebook and some media buying, but in fairly small dollar amounts, still kind of testing. But our tests are starting to yield results, and if we figure out the right strategy, we might wind up putting more into it. As I said on Skype, over the next couple of days, by the end of the day Sunday, we'll find out who is interested in being in a co-op for the event, which will be handled separately. Any event co-ops, any live event co-ops will be handled separately from our main Brain Trust co-op, because that was not the charter originally, and there's people that don't want to participate in that. It's just another opportunity, in my opinion. So the amount of money that we get and the people who are involved in that co-op will certainly have a lot of input into what we do here. But offline, I'm thinking about doing more ninja stuff, like with flyers delivered to people's doors or on their cars, like I've been doing here in San Diego. Thinking about the radio the cheap radio that I did. It seems to be getting some pretty good results for less than $1,000. So I wouldn't go and do another $7,000 radio campaign, but I think a couple $1,000s in ninja strategies and a couple $1,000s of online stuff split between some people in the co-op could be money well spent. So, the question for all of you is, if you have interest, we can share ideas offline and bring them back to the next meeting. Rob Harris will be responsible for coordinating that stuff, so you can send him information on Skype or me. But we're always open, you know. To be honest, I haven't put much thought into this since our last meeting, so aside from the conversations that I had with Lisa and with Eileen and Peter last night. So what else? I think that's really everything. If you don't have input, you know, these are the things that we need. We need to figure out who the presenters and what the schedule is going to be, and really the strategy. Is it going to be a launch? What do you say? You want to take it? Do you want to take it as a launch as far as the marketing automation? No, I'm not talking about the marketing automation as much as I'm talking about the process. You know, the automation is important if you're going to have an evergreen deal and you just want to get it right for the long term, or you're going to absolutely, where you're going to have a ton of leads coming in and you got to be able to handle them all really quick. We're not expecting to have an onslaught, so I don't think we need to have the automation any better than just being able to do, you know, an autoresponder sequence for people that opt in and follow up by phone for people who give us their phone number. To me, that's more than sufficient. Okay, good. Yep. All right. Any other input before we end this official meeting, and then we'll continue on and talk about the, for anybody who's interested, we can talk about ideas for other presenters and anything else that any of you want to talk about.
I think that wraps it up on this end.
Yeah, nobody's saying anything. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This is Rob Tepper from San Diego with a great group of people. We've got Charlie Harmon from Oregon. How do you pronounce Oregon?
Oregon.
Right? Oregon. Bojan Daroslavec from Vancouver, British Columbia. Sydney Martini from somewhere outside of Columbia, South Carolina. Clinton Lewis from Las Vegas, Nevada. Eileen Chen and Alina Starr, both from the Toronto, Canada area. And me, Rob Tepper. Been a pleasure, and we will see you all again. Oh, we didn't plan on our next meeting time. I think we're going to have a full team meeting on Sunday, and so and then we're going to have our meeting with Lisa on Sunday night. So I think we're going to need to do a team get-together about the webinar on Sunday night after we talk to Lisa, at least for the people that are involved in the final scripting and to figure out any last-minute things that we need to do for that. And then with the Monday night webinar, I guess that we'll have our next meeting like this on Tuesday to talk about the follow-ups from there. So Sunday night, talking to Lisa, or those of us who are part of this and interested, we'll talk to Lisa at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern, and then the webinar will be at actually it's up to us. She can do it, the later the better, so either 10 p.m. Eastern or 11 p.m. Eastern. I think I told her 9. I think I told her 10 p.m. her time, yeah, which would be the same thing, 11 p.m. Eastern on both nights. So, because she wanted to do it as late as possible, because she's leaving for Norway in the morning and she wants to stay up all night, and because she needs to sleep on the plane. And so for her, the later the better, but she, you know, we also wanted to make it not too late for East Coast people. So I think it's going to be at 11 o'clock Eastern. It might be 10 o'clock. If you have strong feelings, the thing is that the later it is Eastern, the better it is for India and for Australia. So we just have to work around everybody. So that's it. That is it. Our next exciting event altogether will be Monday night, and on Sunday night there'll be the planning meeting. Monday morning we'll continue, and then Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, same time this meeting was supposed to start, we'll have our next organizational meeting for this event. Thank you, everybody.